Hello and good evening,
Yeah.
everybody. Everybody who's listening to Creating the Conversation podcast, episode 9. Welcome today. Guys, hopefully you'll stick with us and you'll speak to, hopefully you will also engage with us, some of the comments and etc. That you share with us. Any questions that you have, please do share that with us as well. We will try our utmost. We've seen in our previous programs as well that a number of questions, etc., that have come up. Sometimes you can't answer it there and then because we're engaging in our dialogue and conversation. And of course, we want to keep a bit of a flow within the conversation as well. But if someone does have a question or a statement, etc., you're welcome to do that. And if you see fitting that your comment is something that we can use and we can incorporate within our discussion, we'll mention that. That's not a problem at all. But if there are any other questions, etc., that come up during the conversation, guys, we will try to answer that later on, maybe on our Twitter post within, or maybe an email or whatever it is. We will use a particular method of getting that answer to yourselves. Guys, it's been a number of weeks that we've been in dialogue and conversation and trying to, we've brought on a number of, good friends of ours, people who I consider to be activists. I consider to be people who are, the true individuals who change the fabric of society. And I think Britain, as a country, we have some amazing individuals. We have amazing people that do some amazing things and impact not only British society, but also international societies, communities. They have an impact. They have a say. May that be around human rights, may that be around issues or concerns of making sure that people are provided what is their right as human beings. You understand? May that be because of food and water, or the right to life, the right to be who they are, protecting them from particular type of hate and etc., which is in the fabric of British society, within the British legal structure and political system. But sadly, when we have a tendency not to have good leadership, not saying the contemporary leadership, I'm not talking about that per se, I'm talking about on a general basis. People are led by leaders. Now, the question is, wherever the leader is going to lead us towards, nationally, it has an impact. Internationally, it has an impact upon us. COVID-19, of course, today's conversation is going to be around COVID-19 and confusion. And before we start delving into that and discussing about what our intentions are regarding the conversation, guys, I'm going to bring in my good friend, Mr. Ivan Humble, to the conversation. Hi, mate, how are you doing today? Have you been? Man, they got us on tier 3. What are you on?
Tier 1.
Oh, hey, that's not fair. That's not fair. Do you know what I'm saying?
Mate, I feel bad, honestly. I feel really bad. That's the confusion again, isn't it? These different tiers, and it's the new tier system is putting in more confusion again. Do you know what I mean?
You okay?
Can you hear me, all right, man?
Yeah, I can. Go for it, mate.
Yeah, I'm just saying, it's the new tiers are putting a new load of confusion to everybody, because you probably just got used to the last rules and then they've changed a little bit. You've got to get used to something else. And I know in Scotland, then they're doing a 5-tier system. That's it.
That's
we're still in the tier 1. We are.
You're on the tier 1. You're just relaxing. You're just chilling out, aren't you? There's curfew for the pubs and the restaurants.
Yeah, it's about as near to normal. It's about as near to normal as we've had for a long while. Do you know what I mean? This is, but it's still a bit strange, because you still don't find yourself going out the house much. It's just reluctancy, maybe. I know, it's just strange.
Being cautious, isn't it? You know what I mean? No, I can understand that, because a lot of I know about a lot of elderly members of our communities, some people who are vulnerable because of the illnesses and etc. They need to be a bit cautious. We understand that, but at the same time, look, it's really confusing, really difficult, because I get it to a certain extent why certain things need to be done in a particular way. We're going to come to this part of the conversation anyway, and that's the confusion. That's what we want to discuss. We spoke about it before, about the masks and about this and about that. But the thing is, what's happened in the last week and a half, approximately a week, it's been very interesting, Ivan. There's been because they've done regional lockdowns, and there have been regional leadership who have simply turned around and said, listen, this is not going to work for us. All right. Now, some people feel that these people are going against the norm, or they're going against the authority and the position of individuals who are in a high position of power. How dare they question what central government is saying and doing? On the other side, whereas them speaking up, right, it gives a bit of a voice to the people that they represent. Okay, so there is of course there's going to be a difference of opinion on this, but looking at what's been presented, okay, and looking at what's happened in the last 7-8 months, especially because of COVID and etc., what I believe strongly is that when a certain type of information goes out, there has to be some sort of clarity, and there has to be, I'm going to use the word, there has to be some sort of equality, right, up and down the country, because when that doesn't happen, Ivan, that creates animosity.
It was a division.
It does. Now, recently, like for example, you guys at your end,
do you know what I mean?
It does, because at your end, all right, you've got tier 1, right? At our end, we've got tier 3. In fact, predominantly, majority of the larger cities, other than I think so down south in London, etc., where it's tier 2, I believe it is, and most of us at the top up here are tier 3. Now they keep on saying it's for a short period of time, it is this, it is that, but it has impacted every aspect or every area of our society, may that be from care, hospital, schooling, all right, or business, any type of business. Yeah, our pubs, our restaurants, right, takeaways have been impacted by this. You know, our taxi drivers, all right, the type of cautions and precautions that they're taking, brilliant. You know, it's been amazing how people have adapted to all of that. But then again, because this increase of cases, it's really made us, worry. We are in a state of concern that something needs to be done. And I think sometime when we take a step, we don't consider the human element within a particular measure. Now, I was listening to Question Time a few days ago, and one of the key things that they asked some very direct question. They said, would you adhere to the rules? And they said, we have to adhere to the rules. We get that bit, but even though there are certain people who are out of my bubble, there was a lady on there. She said, even though the certain people are my grandson, etc., out of my bubble, right? Problem is, he is a very crucial part, who plays a very crucial part in my well-being, being at home. She goes, I live in a massive house, right? And I need help and support with that. Okay, he's going to take precautions. He's going to have his face mask on. He's going to do all of that. But it's made it really difficult for her, right? Because what's not being considered here, or what's not kept in mind, is the human element, the need of requirement of support and help. What are your thoughts on that, Ivan, mate?
Actually, I'll keep it up to date with the questions this week, because I've got the right thing open. There's a question from Luke saying he doesn't quite understand what you mean, Imran. How is it a lack of diversity to have lockdown tiers? Lockdowns are placed where the RO is high. It's not bigotry, it's to protect people.
No, I agree with Luke. You know what I mean? Luke, I understand that fully and completely, and you're right. I also understand why central government has gone ahead and done that. All right, because if there are certain regions, like we had Cornwall, I think that they had, was it 26 or 27 cases? Up here, it's gone into hundreds. I don't disagree with that. That's not the point I'm trying to make. What I'm trying to make is, what needs to be understood is the circumstance, situation of the people that live in them regions. The argument that was made by leadership or local leadership, and some of the mayors and etc. up and down the country have said, listen, this is going to impact our businesses, this is going to impact our local businesses, and we're going to speak out. And that conversation is predominantly about money. It's about the financial impact. They want financial support. I'm saying something different here. What I'm saying is there's a real human impact here. You understand? Now, when certain measures are taken, which are crucial and important, right? They need to be taken. I understand that you're keeping people safe, but there has to be a sense of understanding that person's situation or them individuals' situation. So look, I agree with you. I don't disagree with you. You're right. It's not about preferring one over the other. I get what they're trying to do. I understand what they're trying to do. So I get it on a personal level. So I don't have an issue with that. I know the argument that initially that was made. Hey, when the numbers were high within London, you locked down the whole country. That's the argument that's been made. So the impact is shared. What the conversation is, or the argument that's been made, that if London Central, which is the main economical power, is impacted, then everyone shared the concern and everybody got locked down equally. But and I can understand why the regional things have happened, because they've thought about it differently. They felt, 1 minute, if we're going to impact even those cities and towns which have very low numbers, it's not going to be really fair. And on the larger, even though it's individually, like there's pockets of businesses where people are self-employed, right? We get it. For them individuals, even the chancellor now has said we're going to give some support. Now, all of this has taken place by having the conversation, by having the debate. Thank God there are people in the system, there are leaders in the system who have questioned the government. And around our businesses, etc., certain things, certain supports have come back again. All right, which is brilliant. But what I'm trying to say is, I get all of that. That's important. That's essential. That's keeping the country above water, breathing. We need all of that. But at the same time, if you put certain restrictions in place, you need to also keep in mind that people have started, and a lot of people are really had enough of it, because they're saying we are taking precautions. I'm wearing a mask. I'm making sure I've got gloves on. I'm going to go and see my nana. I'm going to see my gran. All right. Now, even though she's not part of my bubble, she needs some support for her own mental health, for her own well-being. Do you see where I'm coming from? So I'm coming from a slightly different perspective. I get it from the economy side and etc. That's essentially important. I get all of that. So I don't have a problem on a personal level having lockdowns in different regions for different purposes. I get it why they've done it. My only issue is that there has to be consideration, full and complete, for the human element as well. Right? And sometimes, sadly, we tend to forget that as leaders. What do you think?
Yeah, I thought it was good to see Andy Burnham, and Andy Burnham got a lot of stick really, but it wasn't just him. It was about 10 other MPs with him as well. So I get the point of him standing up, and it was good to see an actual MP standing up for its people, not just the people who voted him. I mean, for everyone. That was reassuring to see, I think, with the state of politics at the minute. But at the same time, the human element, like you said, the businesses, how many businesses have already been lost? Do you know what I mean? How many people are struggling there? It's just, I just feel sorry for all the people that have lost their business, they've worked their life for. And like I said, taxi drivers, even they're not even been able to earn their full potential like they normally do. Pubs closing early, not many people going out to shops at the minute. Do you know what I mean? So there's a lot of hard times coming for a lot of people.
There is, and I think, yeah.
And when there's hard times, people struggling, it becomes a bit of it. Some people become easy pickings for some extremists to latch onto with this confusion.
And it is, Ivan, my mate, one of the biggest issues that has always occurred is when leadership, local leadership or central leadership, whatever it is, when they do not speak or amplify the voices of genuine concern in their communities, people tend to go down a certain pathway because they're still grieved. They still got grievances. They still got concerns around this whole thing about businesses and closing down of gyms and closing down initially. I'm talking about the initial position that was taken. All right, it was really difficult. You've had people who have tried their utmost. Oh my God, my local community, God bless them. I've got to say, people. I literally went out of my house and I'm early in the morning to see our bin men. Right, I went to see him and I said, guys, thank you very much for coming. Thank you very much for doing your job. Do you know what I'm saying? Now, not saying they're not being impacted. They're impacted as well. That's a business as well. Do you know what I mean? And that's a business, that's a structure as well. They are also impacted by that. So at every level, we have that, right? But the problem is when leadership sometimes does not speak or align the conversation or align their voices with the voices of the one who are right at the bottom of the pile. This is why, we spoke about Andy Burnham and a number of other mayors and other public representatives. In my personal opinion, I think this is, even though it's happened before as well, it's happened with other issues and concerns, I think to give a voice to the people was essential. That Andy Burnham, in his case in Manchester, he spoke up. He said, listen, I'm not ready to just take what you have to say. This is a genuine impact on my community. There are businesses that have closed down. All right. And do you remember at that time, there was no real conversation around the furlough as well. There was no conversation because initially they said they're going to, finish that within end of October, coming to November. Of course, there has been a turn on that, right? And they've gone back. The Chancellor has said that he is going to look at giving some support and help to people through that particular scheme once again, hopefully. Now, but someone spoke up. What I'm saying is someone spoke up, mate. Do you know what I mean? Someone said something and they said, oh, 1 minute. He's amplifying the pain of people whose businesses and whose livelihoods have been impacted. What are your thoughts?
There's one thing I kind of get is that I've said it before, that London, everything seems to be based on London, not exact. Do you know what I mean? People in London don't understand people in Manchester. Do you know what I mean? They don't understand people where I live. So how do they know that what needs to be done properly without speaking to people first? Do you know what I mean? Speaking to the people in our areas above us, like Andy Burnham, people like that, they need to be included in these conversations. And I'm not blaming Boris or the government. It doesn't matter who had been in government this time. Whatever people would have done would have been wrong by some people. So you can't just blame Boris for this. Whatever party would have been in would have had these same problems and same complications. And I must admit, it can't be an easy decision to make to shut places down either. Do you know what I mean? But I suppose as a leader, you have to make tough decisions and realize not everybody's going to agree with them decisions.
And that's see, I agree with you on that. You need to make tough decisions, but we are a democratic structure, right? We are a democratic system, right? Democracy demands that a discussion at least taking place, and you look, the likes of the MPs that we have, they represent the common people. Now, one of the biggest arguments that lies in the world that we live in is that are our MPs fully empathetic towards the people that they represent, or they fully understand the people that they represent, right? Which is always a concern. Now, if someone has not, for example, if they're representing a particular constituency, and a constituency is working class, and they themselves are an individual who is a career politician, for example, okay, and they're pursuing this idea of clear politician, being a career politician, studied in a particular university and etc., and they feel that I could use this as a platform to do my to forward my own career. Even that doesn't help. So that's why, in a way, that becomes an issue, mate. Do you know what I'm saying? And I think that this is what I mean with COVID-19 pandemic. And the confusions that have taken place, the discussions or the lack of discussion sometimes has taken place. We have seen those individuals and those people who have genuine shown concern of their communities, and those who have just said tokenistically saying, yeah, I represent them, and I will just toe the line. It doesn't work like that. There has to be, you have to question authority. Okay, we get what you're doing. We understand we have to unite. Don't play politics. We have party politics. Let's not play that. But at least understand the common man's concern and problem. And this week, in a way, was a very good example of a local representative. Whatever your opinion may be about his politics, right? We're not here to discuss that. this party or that party. What we're saying is, when we talk about the concept of leadership, Ivan, and we talk about what is leadership. Now, in leadership, one of the key things is about communication, having the ability to communicate with people. Now, how do you communicate with people if you don't know what their issues, concerns are, what their problems are? How do you communicate with them, engage with them, if you don't understand their personal circumstances? Do you know what I'm saying? Then, of course, one of the key attributes, qualities of a leader is that integrity, by doing the right thing. This is a key attribute, quality of a leader. Now, if you're not going to do the right thing, you are only thinking about the people who fund you. How many times have we bailed out the banks, for example? How many times have we done that? Numerous times. And sadly, when we talk to our local working class communities, they don't see, or sometimes, we don't see, because I'm part of that whole community myself, we don't see as a larger community, as a larger number, that the problem is right at the top and by money supporting the bank is only. What about the people at the bottom? What do they see? Oh, it's these Asians or these black people or these other white working class people, and because of them I'm in this crap. That's the way we tend to do this. This is why, as leaders, they have to understand their people, have integrity, have empathy, right? Humility, have a vision, and speak up for those who need that bloody voice. And that's my opinion. What do you think, Ivan? You know what I mean? I could just be.
Yeah, see, it's probably different for you than it is for me, because I haven't got the restrictions you've got. If we were in tier 3, I'd probably have a bit more of a stronger opinion about it. Do you know what I mean? But I get what you're saying about.
You're part, Ivan. You're part of this nation. You're part of this nation. You're part of this structure, right? What happens? I get it. I don't disagree with you on that point. That because you are yourself, you're not in that situation yourself, but you can empathize.
Oh yeah, of course I can. Do you know what I mean? I can empathise. I just think, when is this all going to end? Do you know what I mean? We can't keep putting everybody in lockdown for 2 weeks at a time and then changing it, then in a couple of weeks again do it again. There's no consistency to anything. Do you know what I mean? When people think they're getting ahead of themselves, something else happens. At the minute, I think the confusion and the frustration is people want to get on with their lives. They want to build their businesses back up, and people have lost thousands of millions. Do you know what I mean? I think that's where the confusion and a lot of frustrations come from now. This has been going on for what? Since April, May time? It's been a long time.
March, from March onward. It continues to
from March. So, do you know what I mean? So that's been that continuously inconsistency for that long.
That's right.
When it got lifted before, people started excited because people are happy to open their business again. And then up north, like for example, they open up for a little while, then they're told to shut again. That's got to be frustrating for the owners.
It is frustrating. Look, there's a friend of a friend. What he done was understanding what the requirements were. This idea of having 6 people in a bubble. All right, they can come into the restaurant, right? But with social distancing. Initially, I think so that's one of the restrictions that was put in place. Now, what he done was he had a car park. Half of his car park he built into it. He built into his car park, and he extended his restaurant. All right. Now, with these restrictions that have come into place, they've simply said you cannot, because the idea was people can't come in to eat. I'm not talking about the local one, because of course the rules here are different. Because if you're a restaurant, then of course you can provide the food with limited numbers. But the bit just before that, a few weeks before that, the argument came up and the discussion came up that you cannot have people coming and sitting down to eat. It can only be a takeout. So he goes, 1 minute, I've just spent I don't know how much of my budget, right? And I've taken from the banks, and I've done whatever I needed to do, and I extended my restaurant. All right, I'm trying to adhere to the rules. right, of having social distancing. Now you're saying I can't do that. All right, what am I going to do? I'm not. He gave an example of the some other um, food outlets, all right, which have drive-ins, okay, drive-throughs. So he said a few of them. He goes, I don't have a drive-through, so my business is going to be impacted hugely. So work with me, don't work against me. That's what he was saying. Now he's one out of thousands of people like that, right, who are in a similar situation as him. Now, as a local leader, as someone who is a representative, right, will take that, for example, his case, and people like him to Parliament and presents that. Look, if you are going to create laws and restrictions where our people are adhering to the rules and regulations, it's still going to have an impact. It's going to create animosity. Right? They're going to say, 1 minute, I'm spending money out of my pocket as well. I'm doing all that. I'm trying to adhere to the rules. What the hell are you doing to me, man? You're killing me. That's where the frustration is.
So also as well, right, is they want us to stick to the rules, but then some of the MPs have been breaking the rules and getting away with it.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you know what I mean? I think, yeah, do you know what I mean? And so that I understand the public's frustration. If you, what have we got to do if you're not? Do you know what I mean? I get that argument, and I think I see a story about Jeremy Corbyn the other day. Not having a pop at him or nothing. Do you know what I mean? But when he went for that dinner with 7 people, which was outside the bubble law at that time, he got away, didn't get fined. But we're seeing students getting fined. Students are already in a lot of debt. Admittedly, they shouldn't be having house parties, but they're already riddled with debt with their college fees or university fees. Now, some of them are getting an extra 10 grand thrown on top of that debt. I don't think this 10 grand debt is working. It's not scaring people, because people know that you'll never be able to claim or get that 10 grand fine in. There's no way most people can pay that. They'll be paid weekly at probably £1 a week. So the government will never reclaim that money with the fines anyhow. But if you're not going to fine the MPs that are breaking the laws, how can you then, ordinary people, how can you fine them and expect them to pay when...
the populace? How would you expect the population? You're right. Ivan, you hit the nail on the head, man. The problem is our own leadership. If they are not going to adhere to the rules and regulations themselves with the restrictions, how the hell do they expect common people to do that? And even though, fine, we get it. You want to keep saying, go for it.
I've got another quick example. Jeremy Corbyn's brother, Piers, is it Piers? So he got done in London. He got a £10,000 fine in London for that demo. He's since been on another 3 or 4 demos. He attended a demo in Norwich, just up the road from me, a few weeks back, where one of the people who supported him or who went that demo, that lady got fined £10,000.
Wow.
He never, and he called the demo. Do you know what I mean? So I'm not saying that person was innocent, he got the fine, she might have done something to trigger it, but it's like anything. The people that are calling these things get away with it, and the support or whatever, they're the ones that get punished. Do you know what I mean? It's not bad for Piers. He can probably pay that 10 grand fine in one go. Most people can't. You're just putting more hardship onto people that are already really vulnerable because of this COVID thing as well.
And you're right. And you're right. And you're right. And I think as leadership, that needs to be kept in mind. And once again, let me re-emphasize this point. I get it. Why regional lockdowns are taking place. Other countries have done the same. Like, there's a very good point that Luke has just made as well. One of our listeners, you know what I mean, who's a regular listener, God bless him. You know, and a very good point that in China, for example, they did that. They put certain things in place, but also keep in mind that China took some very drastic measures straight away. They didn't care, you know, human this and human that. They didn't care about nothing about that. They straight away went to lockdown. They had people stuck behind, you know, camps and this and that. They were doing there were some major steps that they had taken because it's more of a totalitarian structure. They do as they please, right? So they took that step. Whereas in governance here, it is a governance of dialogue and discussion. This is why I'm saying that in this country, maybe it's much more harder to compare ourselves with, other countries, because our governance, our rulership, our political structure is different. It's supposed to be based on conversation. MPs are our representatives, all right, taking our concerns to the House. That's what this structure is about. That's what it's about, all right? So power of the people from amongst the people. That's what it is. Now, if that is true, then local leadership as well as central leadership have to have conversations, have to have dialogue, all right, and understand people's circumstances. And in a way, in my opinion, in a way, that's what's happened the last week or something. It's really interesting to see this whole debate around, discussion around, oh, we don't want to accept this, and we don't want this, and we don't want that, or you need to consider about our businesses. That's why, in a way, Liverpool got what it got. All right, Leicestershire got what it got. Of course, Manchester, of course, there's still a bit of debate or discussion around how much they want and why they want that much and whatever it is. But at least the dialogue is taking place, the conversation is taking place. For me, that's important. Because then 1 minute, this guy is speaking up for me. Because look, the world we are from, one of the major grievances that we get from the people that we talk to, especially who are in the extreme world, they say the people who're supposed to listen to us don't listen to us. They don't give us a voice. And Ivan, you know, my mate, when people are not given a voice, when they're not heard, what happens?
You find or somebody else listens to you. Like I don't know if you want to put those other two. Do you want to put that leaflet up at the minute? Because we're talking about lockdown. Birmingham's in the tier 3. Birmingham's in a tier 3 as well, and there's no conversation really there. So he started the conversation there. Is Patriotic Alternative? They've been out this week. Once the screen loads, delivering leaflets. So they're sort of breaking into that frustration and anger. And I think if I just wait, I'll read it down somewhere. Let me have a look. A couple of their posts. This is East Birmingham, so two posts from Patriotic Alliance said they delivered to 700 households in Birmingham, and then claimed to have distributed 5,000 in East Birmingham.
Right.
Of course, they offer a download version as well for anybody to do their own. I don't know if you can read some of that because I ain't got my glasses near.
We were told that hospitals were overflowing with patients suffering from COVID and that our NHS was under threat. Yet nurses and doctors are now reporting that hospital wards are empty and have been for months. Now, see, they're making an assumption on this basis, all right, that this is what's going on. But ultimately, I know, Ivan, what you're saying. When there is a space or a vacuum, someone's going to fill it. There's a gap. In a way, our leadership, people in authority and position need to give a voice and support to the people who are genuinely concerned about what's happening with COVID. Because organizations like this, the one that you've just presented, Ivan, right, they are going to fill that space. They are going to try to give a voice, right, or try to give an alternative position, which might not be, which is more decisive. It's more about them and us than me and you. That's the problem. An organization like this, of course, we'll talk about, on the long run as well, who these characters are and why their views and ideas are like this. But for me, it's important when leadership, which has been appointed, which has been elected, all right, speaks for the people that they are elected by, then characters like this, the organization that we just mentioned, and people like this don't get a space, or they get a space, but then at least they get an answer. Problem is, we don't create spaces safe spaces where people can have conversations. That's number one. Number two is we don't have an opportunity to genuinely have dialogue. It's just bombarded by one side and no counter narratives. That's what tends to happen. I'm going to share something else, which you have put forward, and hopefully we can have a bit of a discussion around that as well, because this is something that was used as well, wasn't it, Ivan? And you said this is what some of the far right organizations were using. That because of population.
No, this is far right. This is from the left, would you believe?
Okay. So this is the other side now. Yeah. Go for it. Shed some light.
Yeah, this is from the other side. I mean, they put this meme out as soon as the discussion started about funding. So they're trying to say that Manchester was only awarded 20 million, with a population of 2.8, and then somewhere like Newark, which is just not that far from me, received more funding than them for 32,000 people. Never happened. Do you know what I mean? I think they've offered Manchester 60 million. So this,
Yeah.
all sides are playing playing with the confusion. Do you know what I mean? This is probably to anger hate towards the Tories, and then you got the far right doing the other way. It's just all confusion, all division, and all us and them. There'll be ordinary don't want to sit with each other and talk anymore. It's that same thing that we would say all the time, that conversation just doesn't happen anymore with people that need it to.
See, I agree with you, and that's the problem that we've got, aren't we, Ivan? That we are not ready to, even though the structures have been put into place. Look, we the Commons. What is all about? That's what it's about. It's about the debate. It's about the discussion. It's about the conversation. It's about holding authority, all right, in question, all right. But you put them into account, and you say to me, "Yeah, 1 minute, what are you doing?" You've got to think about certain sectors of society, and when that doesn't happen, what's the difference between us and a totalitarian structure? Right.
And that's the other thing that's happened recently. And that's the other thing that happened recently about the free school meals for the kids, where the government voted against that. But which I don't certainly understand why. But a couple of days ago, they were all getting a £3,200 pay rise. The MPs are. Why are they deserving of a pay rise when businesses are being lost left, right, and centre? It's like Luke said, it is sad that businesses will die and are dying, but we can't change the fact that the virus is here. Do you know what I mean? It's a sad reality that the ordinary man loses out when other people don't. Do you know what I mean? That's the thing. I sit with God where Luke is.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with him. And the thing is this: what needs to be kept in mind is what leaders and parties need to understand is they stand in that position because they've been elected into that position. Right? If you do not look after the ones who elect you, guess what? Tables can turn.
You get elected again.
Turn. And they do turn. And this is why, as common people who are, look, we've been struck by with initially Brexit, the argument that took place, confusion all over the place that was going on. Yeah. Confusion around how we tend to, around immigration issues that were taking place recently. Of course, now we've got this whole COVID thing going on. Initially, there was a united front, regardless of what political, lineage we were or what particular point of view we were coming from. There was a much more of a united front. I understand this is a pandemic. It doesn't look at what culture you're from, what background you're from. It doesn't look at your political views. If you are affected by it, it will have an impact. Simple and straightforward. That united us. And then suddenly, of course, the whole conversation around Black Lives Matter took place, and then it became decisive again. Dominoes and this and that, whatever that started to take place. But what needs to be understood is common people, normal lives are impacted by this. COVID itself is hard enough, right? The pandemic itself is hard enough. Thousands of lives have been lost. Internationally, hundreds of thousands of lives have been lost, right? Whatever steps have been taken, okay? People have tried to adhere to the rules and regulations as best as they can. For God's sake, they're having enough. Work with them, not against them. Around this whole thing, I think this U-turn. Just let me put this in. I think there's a very good U-turn by the Chancellor by putting the scheme of furlough back into place, right? Because it would have had a major impact upon not only the well-being, not only on the businesses and the finances of this country, but also only the livelihoods, but also the well-being of human beings, their mental health state. God forbid, under the pressure and because of anxiety and because of fears, people start harming or hurting themselves. God, I hope that doesn't happen. And if that support and help is not there, oh my God, we've got some major problems on our hands there.
Just to add to the confusion as well, I see another story pop up today. Yeah, it is today, 23rd. It says the people who are using the track and trace app won't be able to get the isolation payment. If that app tells you that you have to self-isolate, then you're not eligible for that £500 payment from local authority. So that's going to add more hardship on the people. So the app, do you know what I mean? I don't know. You can see why there's a lot of confusion around the app as well. Do you know what I mean? You get told, I think you can use it anonymously. If you're told to self-isolate, like, who you are, but people shouldn't be excluded from that payment because they're using the app that the government have told them to download.
That's right.
It's going to cause more confusion, more anger, and then it kind of feeds into the conspiracy theorists then about they're only trying to track you. That's what they're for. Do you know what I mean? It's just everything fuels everything at the minute. Luke, I'll send you the link to it, mate.
So now, looking at what's going on with this whole COVID confusion thing, and one of the key things that we wanted to discuss, guys, those of you with us, and hopefully who will listen to this later on, is that we wanted to at least hone into some of the antics and the works and the conversations that have taken place on the basis of leadership, how leaders have in the last week or two especially, and of course in the last number of months as well, have dealt with certain things, taken certain steps, and how that impacts the lives of normal people. Now, what's happening in Greater Manchester, what's happening in London, Liverpool, Leicestershire, and etc., has been very interesting, because suddenly local communities, local governances, local leadership have said, 1 minute, you're not realizing, being in the central government, you need to also understand our stresses and strains as well. Okay, and keeping in mind, for example, look, Ivan, in your ends, of course, the numbers are much lower of how many people live there, whereas within central cities and towns and etc., there's much more higher numbers. Now, when the lockdown happened in East Anglia, in the northeast, or when that initially took place, everybody was like, "Oh my God, what the hell?" But I remember I was in them their ends at that time, just before that, and the discussion was still taking place. This is going to happen. I'm going to be very blunt with you. I've got to give it to them. They were like, "Listen, this needs to take place. There has to be a lockdown. We're worried. We need to lower the number of people who've been impacted by COVID-19. You understand? Cases that have taken place and suddenly increased." So amazing thing is that communities are very compliant. They're compliant. They're trying to adhere to the rules and regulation as best as they can. They know their own lives and vulnerable people in society, community are impacted by this. All I'm saying is, for God's sake, if you're our leaders, understand that. Be a bit more empathetic towards the people who've elected you into position. Do you know what I'm saying? Come on, for God's sake.
In a selfish way, you don't need to stick to your lockdowns, because I just think all the towns you've named, Liverpool, Blackburn, Manchester, is where we're due to go to work next year, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? So
that's true.
Do you know what I mean? So it's been hard enough at the minute. Do you know what I mean? Trying to do our job that we can do. Hopefully, this isn't going to stop us going to Liverpool and the other towns, because I don't know. I just think that it could restrict us next year as well, doing what we do. Do you know what I mean? Which is not a pleasant thought. It's not anxious about it, but it's still a long way off. But we're still going to be like this for the next 6 months at least, that we're on and off. Do you know what I mean? So.
No, come on, come on, this is becoming personal. Like, Luke goes, these to grow up and take the virus seriously. Let me share something with you. We are taking this damn seriously. Oh, trust us, we're taking it very, very seriously. We are. Only thing is, if certain pockets of community and society are not clear what the rules and regulations are, how it is and why it is, what do? You also have to empathize and understand why people are going through what they're going through. Now, what I don't like is we have a tendency, we are from the same country, right? When the numbers were high down south, the northerners were saying, oh, these southerners need to do whatever. Suddenly now the northerners are in that situation. Now the southerners are saying, oh, the northerners need to do whatever. I'm like, 1 minute. We are all in this as one. Stop doing that. Am I saying something alien here, mate? It's not them and us. What I'm trying to say, the pandemic impacts all of us, regardless of culture, religion, regardless of background, regardless of who we are, what class we're from, or what economically, or how strong we are, or weak we are, makes no difference. Now it's a high impact in the north. It was the same in the south before. All we're doing is pointing fingers and we're not dealing with it. Let's have a little bit more empathy. Let's have a little bit more love, a little more understanding, I think. All right? And give voice to those who are genuinely screaming and they need a little bit of support. Let's do it. We are going to be judged according to how we are under these very extreme circumstances. That's how we're going to be judged. That's what I, strongly believe in. Especially the world I'm from. These are the times that people remember. This is what they remember. And I don't want to be amongst those people, all right, who did the wrong thing in these times. I don't want to be amongst those people. I want to be amongst those people who've done the right thing. What do you think?
No, I agree with that. I was just thinking, I was speaking to somebody the other day, our friend Kath the other day. A bit of background. In your environment where you work, how has it affected them people? If you know what I'm saying.
Say it again.
So, in your field of work, what you do for the day job,
yeah,
how is it affecting people on the inside? Do you know what I mean? Because
big time.
Speaking of Kath the other day, her boys under like Kath's boys suffering quite bad really because of the lockdown inside the West. They're not getting out to mix with people. They have to pick whether to have a shower or a phone call. It's pretty harsh. I just wondered how you're finding it in your day job. Are you in the frustration or are you experiencing any anger towards them being locked down?
No, Ivan, that's a very good question. I've got to say, I've got to give it to the lads, yeah, and I've got to give it to the people who are working in them setups at the moment. It's amazing how patient and how understanding lads have been, right? Now, for the last 7-8 months continuously, because us guys have been seen as key workers and we've gone in, given that help and support and etc. Whatever needs to be done, right, in custody, who are within custody at the moment. But the amazing, especially the establishment I work in, and it's been amazing that they've taken it on the chin. The most difficult thing for them has been not seeing their families. That's the most hardest thing. All right. They got phones now, they can have a conversation with their family. But the hardest thing has been they couldn't see their family. Now, I would go, I'm amongst those individuals that will go around, meet lads, see the officers as well, do you know what I mean, who are working a particular setup. And one thing is common between all of them is I can't see my family. This is initially when the lockdown took place. But for the prisoners, it made it even worse. Because for us, outside, we could at least use social media. We could use certain platforms, where we could have video conferences with our families. So I couldn't go and see my mom and dad. I couldn't have a conversation or discussion with them. All right. I mean, face to face. But I could at least have a conversation over social media. Okay. Or any other way. They could do that. So they've not had that opportunity as well. The only thing they could do is converse on a phone call and make a phone call. That's it. Nothing more, nothing less. And now, when suddenly the restrictions were loosened slightly, they started to have a little bit of some visits. Now the visits came, but they had also restrictions. Obviously, it's going to take place. They can't touch them. It's behind Apex, shield, right? And they can't kiss them. They can't touch them. They can't do anything like that. So it's not been easy for them. But the amazing thing is, Ivan, is I've learned a lot from them. This is something a lot of people are going to be a bit shocked with me by saying this. I've learned a lot from them. That they said, look, we can do time. We have no problem with that. We can do time. I've done the wrong thing. I've made a mistake. I've done whatever. I'll do my time. But what I learned from them is how they've occupied their time. Right? Now, they've done it as best as they can. But the hardship came because of the COVID. They would empathize. They started to sympathize with us. who were outside, they were like, man, bloody hell, you must be going through some hardship. And so I'm like, 1 minute, look at yourself. He goes, look, after the guys were saying, we've done something wrong, we're stuck in here. But the bit we can engage with, or at least have an understanding about, is where you can't see your family, and we can't also see our families. Right? And that's really hurting.
Common ground.
There you said it, mate. It's common ground. And I tell you, mate, you know, some of the characters I get an opportunity to work with, they come from really extreme position or really extreme experiences in life. Some of the crimes that they've done, you know, some are very horrific type of crimes. Some are all right, wrong place, wrong time, whatever it is. A mistake has been made. They've been convicted by the courts. They're in there. But now, my mate, for them to find a common ground and have a discussion around that is very powerful. This is what I'm trying to say. That if a person who's done crime, we see him as criminals, we see him as people that we shouldn't be having discussion, conversation with, have that much sense to find common ground and then not to create trouble in certain environments, because the number of kickoffs has reduced, the number of a certain type of behavior, negative behavior has reduced rapidly, all right? Because of that understanding. Of course, they locked down as well, but because of the understanding, why can't we do the same outside? And many of us, we think, oh, we are much more sensible human beings than the characters that are inside.
Not always the case.
It isn't.
No, I was just fascinated by that, because speaking of Cav, do you know what I mean? I was just fascinated. I just had to ask that question because speaking of Cav the other day, I kind of felt for our lad a little bit. Do you know what I mean? Not that I felt sorry for him, just the situation he was in. I suppose maybe I watched too many films or documentaries, but this would be the perfect time for them to have the prisoners to have a big riot or something. But you've not heard nothing like that, have you?
Thank God.
Any of the prisons or nothing.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Because
this is probably the most volatile. Do you know what I mean? It's quite volatile at the minute. It could be, couldn't it? Do you know what I mean? So that's what I was shocked at. That's why I thought I'd ask you that question, because I haven't seen nothing about it. I just wondered how the people are doing inside. Do you know what I mean? There is frustration. We don't hear again. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, there is frustration.
Oh, that's natural.
You know, it's all natural, you know. But the good thing is, like, I'll give you an example, because I'm giving you one example. Like, my colleagues and myself and etc. We'll go around, we'll go and see lads. We have a much more, you know, our duty. We have a duty of care towards them and etc. That's our role. Now, what I find is that when they're frustrated, when they're angry, they share that. They find a way to vent their anger and frustration, right? One of the biggest problems we have outside, like, we can talk about our communities, we can talk about different areas, is that we don't find that, right? We don't get that opportunity. Or the people we're talking to are saying the same thing as we are saying, and we're all frustrated. We're all talking about frustration. We're finding no solutions. We're not finding, and then we have leadership. Many times we have leadership that don't really talk and discuss about how to create solutions to resolve problems. But what are they doing? They're doing the opposite to that, which builds more, you know, frustration and anger. This is why I think sometime is good to stop. And I think the pandemic did that initially to all of us. Everything stopped. A lot of people started to reflect. 1 minute, where are we going? What are we doing? Do you understand? Why are we in this state at this moment in time? And what do we need to do to get out of this situation? Right? As one, not as 10 different people, but as one. Right? Luke just put a bit of a dig against me. He goes, yeah, you're not adhering to the rules. You went to say hi to the bidmen. Yeah, mate, I had my social distancing. All right, don't kill me on that, mate. Don't kill me. Social distancing. I saw him from the side. I go, yeah, lads, thank you very much for coming. I didn't go up to him and give him sweets and everything. Didn't know that. But just to express, to find like a common ground for myself, because I can understand they are coming away from their families. They are making the effort. They're coming in. They could simply say, you know what, tough luck. They can pick up the rubbish they want themselves. All right, I'm not going to put myself in a bit of a really difficult situation. All right, and be impacted by this particular illness and then impact my family. We could do that. Key workers could do that, but they've chosen not to do that. They have chosen to go out. They have chosen to help. They chose to support people. All our doctors and all our nurses, I think, are flipping amazing job. Oh my God, I think that's an understatement. You know, I need to say they're like superhuman sometimes what they're doing. all right, and phenomenal up and down the country, different hospitals and different places of support and help. The type of care that they're giving. We're talking about our supermarkets, people who've been working in supermarkets, making sure the food and everything are provided to the people, right? Then, of course, in the sector I work in, that was also important because for a lot of families, when our sad thing is, as a society, we like locking people up and turning the key away, forget about them, but they're still human beings. So the families, it was a massive relief for the families that people were going in and helping their loved ones. Whether that be a husband or a brother or a boyfriend or whatever, whoever is inside that, like a son, they knew that people are going in to give that support. That gave them some sort of satisfaction, peace of mind, peace of heart. Right? If that didn't, guys, think about it. If that didn't happen, if suddenly the key worker said, you know what? I'm as vulnerable as everybody else. I'm staying home, mate. We would have some major problems on our hands, mate.
It would be, wouldn't it? It would be definitely even more challenging then if that happened. Which, in a way, it's their right to do as well. Do you know what I mean?
But they've chosen not to do that.
Their right to say, "Hey, wash up and myself." I know that's what makes us a good nation. I think that we have people like that, and it's not just it's a lot of different mixtures amongst the key workers as well. It's not just one over the other. Do you know what I mean? It's made up of lots of different people, which is good. So. It's start that reconnection, that common ground again. We needed each other, and then now we've kind of forgotten we need each other still. Do you know what I mean? We're still going to need each other for the next 6 months to the next year, I reckon.
We do.
But we somehow bring this division. I think the government needs to, when they make decisions now, more clarity. So maybe the way they're worded and stuff, because I've said this before, sometimes when you word stuff, a lot of people won't understand that.
Yeah.
So if you keep it simple, but if you keep it simple, everybody can understand it. Do you know what I mean? That's what I think the messaging needs to be, a bit clearer and maybe even basic, just so everybody can understand it from people with learning difficulties or dyslexia or something like that. Well, up to the clever people, just have a basic language that everybody understands. Because when we use all these big words and wordy words, a lot of people don't even have them words in their vocabulary, which is something I've found on the circuit that I've come on in the last 3 years. A lot of the words that I've started using now were never even in my vocabulary before. Not because I just didn't know what they were.
Yeah, exactly. But the thing is, this is why, the point what I made regarding leadership. A leader needs to have this amazing ability of communicating. All right. Now, there's a saying, there's a Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, saying, he goes, "Kallim ala nas ala qadri zawil aqul." And what that simply means, talk to the people according to their intellect and understanding. Right? If you're gonna speak over their head, they're gonna get you. If they speak below, they're not gonna get you. They're not gonna engage with you. Understand? There has to be a sense of understanding what people's requirements and needs are. You got to speak the language. You got to understand their circumstances. You got to understand their pain, right? And that's what leadership is about. It's about understanding people's pain, understanding their circumstances, and then supporting and helping them as much as you can under the restrictions and limitations. I'm not saying that the leaders themselves, they don't have their own problems. Of course they do. They're as human as everybody else, right? They've got families, they've got people that they need to, also be concerned about. But that's the point we're trying to make it. There's immense confusion. Confusion has taken place repeatedly. We get it. Our leadership is also going through struggles and, concerns and problems and whatever they are. All right, that's taking place. But it's also to understand the common man. The common man and woman. And like you said, Ivan, sometimes you have to, get to the level of people. Right? Speak to them at their level, whatever that is, and give them a voice, right? Give them that support. And I think creating the conversation, that's our intention. That's always has been our intention, to try to create a conversation, get people on board, get people from different communities and backgrounds to have a discussion and conversation. Sometimes the discussions are not easy to take, bro. I remember, Ivan, your, early day conversations were like, Ivan, man, what the hell are you talking about, bro? Do you know what I'm saying? But it was important because that was what was going through your heart and your head.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, and that's why I like to keep things simple so everybody understands stuff. Do you know what I mean? I definitely think that the language we use is bad sometimes. Do you know what I mean? Because not everybody understands it, and when not everybody understands it, then people feel secluded. Then
They do.
which adds to vulnerabilities and everything else. Do you know what I mean? So
It does.
I think we've never had a nation full of so many vulnerable people. I don't think. Do you know what I mean? At the minute, our country's vulnerability is so low. It's just well-being as well, like you said earlier. I help with a mental health group, and we met last night, and a lot of them are enjoying lockdown to a point. But when they go shopping, it's that human connection. It's just not being able to smile because you've got a mask on. For some people, that smile is better than a year's worth of tablets. Sometimes that smile, just to smile to somebody, to get that smile back is like the best thing for some people. But they're not being able to get that even. I mean, so that lack of human connection is bad still, because you're not really connecting with people. And when you do see somebody you know, you don't really talk to them because you both wear masks. You just want to get home again. Do you know what I mean? So it's restricting conversation to a point.
It is, mate. And I think, and you're right. We need to think about this. We need to reflect about this. We need to be empathetic towards people, all right, and feel the human. Be human. And as human beings, we genuinely have concern for people. Today's conversation, of course, mainly in a lot of ways, is shedding our frustration as well. Guys, those of you who engaged, I know Luke today has engaged with us, and a number of other friends of ours and colleagues have also, hopefully on the long term, they will also listen to this and maybe give their views and idea, reflections on this. Ivan, it's been a good discussion with you today. There's a number of things that we touched on. Hopefully, it'll trigger some conversation, discussion. I hope to see you next week, my mate. You look after yourself. Have a nice one. Unless there's something else that you want to say, I want to say, sign out, bro.
Nah, I'm good, mate. We'll start. I'll see you next week.
God bless. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.